Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. Y'all, it's Friday. Today is, what is today? August the 19th. Hello, everybody. Today we're doing block 13. Block 13 already. We're going to be doing the iron today. I hope you join me. This pattern is free, y'all. Grab your free 5-inch block, even if you're not doing the quilt now, but it might be something you want to do later, or if you're watching on the replay, grab it down below. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Trinita, I saw it's your anniversary. Happy anniversary. Hello, everybody. I want to start off by thanking my moderators. Dari, I saw you can't stay for the whole time, but I appreciate the time that you are here. Thank you also to Sylvia and anybody else that I missed. Y'all, I am so thankful for my moderators. I would not want to do this without my moderators. Thank y'all so much. Hello, everybody. It's so great to see you. Before we get started today, y'all, if you're on Patreon, don't forget we're going to do our virtual quilt retreat. An all day of hanging out, eating snacks, sewing projects, or just hanging out. I hope you join us for a little bit or the whole time. Sunday, that's this weekend. This whole month has just flown by. Actually, like the last 4 months have just flown by. And, okay, y'all, we're going to do something really fun today after the live at 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am doing an interactive Zoom class, a workshop about cutting SVG files with your cutting machine. And it's free, okay? The only thing is you have to have a Facebook account because that's where I'm going to post. The Zoom link is on my Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page, okay? Not on the Creative Crew, on the Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page. I'm going to post a link to join the Zoom there. About 3 o'clock, maybe a little bit early. If you don't have Facebook, I'm so sorry. I just don't want to post a Zoom link here on YouTube because who knows who would be coming into that, right? But the good news is I'm going to be recording this class, this workshop, and posting the replay here on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to show you my workflow process, and really that's going to be what the workshop is about, right? Let's say we have an SVG file from a pattern or one that we've made ourselves, whatever. We're going to take that SVG, and I'm going to show you my workflow process from the SVG in digital form on the computer. We're going to work with some fabric and some heat and bond light. I'm going to show you the cutting process all the way to a finished block. I gave away my block number 10 to a friend of mine. So today, during the workshop, I'm going to be cutting all of the pieces for this block. All right, so I hope you can join me. It should be lots of fun. And again, the link to join that Zoom will be on my Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page, and it's a free class. And it doesn't matter if you have a scan and cut, a Cricut, a Silhouette, although our machines are slightly different from one another, and although the software that operates our machines are slightly different, the workflow is the same. Okay? So it doesn't matter what machine you have. Come on in and join me. My goal is for all of you that have these cutting machines sitting in a box, or you've taken it out of the box, but you're too intimidated to use it because you just don't know where to start. My goal is to get you using that machine. And what else? Yeah, workflow for SVGs. Oh, I have an idea for my next project. It is going to be another Quilt As You Go project. It's going to be free, so subscribe and follow along. We're going to do a Quilt As You Go project with blocks that are different sizes. So stay tuned, y'all, for more on that. It should be a lot of fun. And yeah, who's ready to make the little iron block today? Let's see. I'm going to switch over to my cutting mat. And I'm going to pull over the pieces for today's block. I have those already pre-cut. They're not pressed. They're just sitting there. And first, let's bring over the pattern. This is your free 5-inch block and the pieces, right? So go ahead and grab that. It's in the description box down below. And then if you're doing the optional version, the 12-inch block, y'all, I think it turned out fantastic. I did some cross hatching on mine, which I hadn't done up until this point. So let me bring over my big block. Isn't that cute? Now, if you follow me on my Facebook page, hello, everybody. Hello. Hello. If you follow me on my Facebook page, you might have seen some pictures of this already, right? But last week I was talking how I had cut out the pieces and fused them down, but I wasn't really happy with the fabric choice. And I was really referring to the word fabric down here. In person, without the satin stitch around the letters, this darker gray table fabric really just blended in with this fabric. But then I was like on the table, should I change it out or just keep it? No, I just kept it. But what I did is I used a satin stitch with a lighter thread, right? And just did a satin stitch around all my letters. And I really think that that helped pop it away from the background. And I don't absolutely love it. Like, I'm not 100% in love with that fabric choice, but I'm like 50-50 now, right? I don't hate it, but I'm not going to redo it. And I do think that the satin stitch really helped with that fabric. Tracy said, Lisa, are you talking about the creative crew? Okay, so on Facebook, it can be a little confusing, right? I have 2 pages. I have my business page, Lisa Capen Quilts, and I have a group, the creative crew. I'll be posting the link to join the Zoom on my Lisa Capen Quilts Facebook page, not creative crew. Okay? But yeah, and then I did a decorative stitch along the bottom, and I think that looks really cool, right? And then I did a cross hatching in the background up at the top, and I love that. I think that turned out fantastic. So that is my large version. And of course, I'm making all of mine into mini quilts. And so mine has a binding on it. If you're joining your large version blocks all together, of course, yours wouldn't have a little binding on it, right? But I think that turned out fantastic. Yeah, all right, so we're working with this page today. Let me just throw that on the ground. And y'all, we have some, they're not tiny pieces, but they're kind of smaller. And we're going to do a little bit of layering today, right? We're going to layer the A piece of the iron on top of this thinner little sliver of a piece, right? The bottom of the iron. And then we're layering the B piece on top of the A piece. And then the little arms of the handle get layered. So I thought today I'm going to use my silicone mat, and we're going to fuse all of these pieces into one applique that we then can put on our block. And I think that would make it a lot easier for me. All right, I'm going to scoop my ironing pressing board over here. Y'all, don't judge me on my pressing mat. I've had a really busy week. And I know it's dirty. Let me lower the temp on my iron, and let me just wake it up and get it heating up. So what I'm going to be using today, and y'all have seen me do this a couple of times, right, is this silicone baking mat. That's all it is. Bake cookies, croissants, all kinds of yummy stuff. It's a silicone mat. I have the Amazon Basics one because I got 2 for really cheap. But it just lays over top, and you can still see your pattern down below. And while my iron is warming up, we can go ahead and start fusing these pieces in place, right? All right, so I've already removed all the paper off of all of my pieces. So I can just start laying them down. Today I put Heat and Bond Light on the back of my pieces. I don't plan on doing any handwork with these pieces today, so Heat and Bond Light is my favorite for just machine applique. We're going to start with the very bottom piece of the iron. What's really nice about the silicone mats is it grips the piece and it doesn't slide around while you're creating your layers. And then we're going to layer the piece A right over top. And this just helps me line everything up right where it's supposed to be, like that. And then the B piece goes over top of that. I thought, y'all, okay, so I love Pioneer Women stuff. And I thought that fabric really reminds me, it's like a Pioneer Woman iron. I'm going to just really quick hit that so that that top piece doesn't move around, right? But I don't want to overpress it. That top piece is just sitting on this fabric A piece, so it could slide around, and I don't want it to. And then we can layer these pieces of the handle. So basically what we're doing is taking multiple pieces and creating one applique shape with it. So the handle, I'm going to lay down first, right? Because these little circles at the end of the handle are going to overlap this part of the handle. So just like that. And then these little tiny pieces can go down. Like that. Let me just hit that real quick. And then the little tiny circle just goes in the center like that. There, that looks pretty. She's a pretty little iron. Cheryl said, if you don't have the silicone mat, could you use the tracing board? I'm not sure what tracing board you're referring to, Cheryl, but you could use like parchment paper. That would work. The only thing about the parchment paper is it's not grippy like the silicone mat is, so just be careful because your pieces might slide around while you're trying to line them up, but you could use parchment paper. All right, I'm just trying to fuse all those pieces in place but not overheat them because I don't want that adhesive soaking into that fabric and then my piece doesn't stick to the fabric background. Oh, Cheryl said the tracing pad, like your LED light pad, I would not use heat on that. Like, are you referring to something like this? I personally would not put my iron anywhere near this, but that's just me. I haven't tried it. I don't know if it works, but I probably would not. I just want to see if these pieces move around. Nope. They're good. I can go ahead and lift that off. So now we have our applique and it's all one solid piece and the pieces are all perfectly lined up, right? So we've used that. I can move that out of the way. And now let's just let that cool off for a second and I'm going to go ahead and glue baste my pieces for today. Sometimes I think I should do this part ahead of time. But sometimes I might want to do some stitching before creating the layers. And most of the time, I'm just winging it. So I don't glue baste these pieces ahead of time. Because what if I decide to do something before creating the layers. Hello everybody. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I know many of you are just hanging out and you're not ever going to make this project, but I'm so glad you're here and that you get to hang out and visit with everybody. It's the main reason why we go live, right? All right, just a little bit of glue. It's just going to keep these layers together. I'm going to try not to overheat and overpress this. So I just have to be really mindful of the temp of my iron. Rhonda said, I like when you wing it. That's so good, Rhonda, because most of the time when I'm live, I have sort of a plan in my head, but we're winging it. The pre-recorded videos, you know, that's more of a thought process and everything is sort of planned out, like I know what I'm doing step by step along the way, but sometimes or most of the time, I'm winging it with the live. All right, we're going to let that cool down. All right, let's see. Yeah, Wanda said the mats are not expensive. They're not. Sylvia said, Lisa, if you were making these blocks as mug rugs, how big would the backing be? So you want to make the 5-inch block, but turn it into like a coaster or a mug rug? Generally, I like to have an inch overhang as my backing, if I'm using the backing as a binding, right? So we have a 5-inch by 5-inch finished block. I would make it 5, 6, 7 inches by 7 inches. And that would give you an inch overhang to use as your binding. And save a lot of time, right? Putting a traditional binding on a 5-inch square, I think, would be a little tricky. Not attaching it to the sides, but joining the ends. Sheila said, do I have to download Zoom in order to get on the Zoom on Facebook? I think, Sheila, you will have an easier time joining the Zoom if you have the app. Now, Zoom is free, right? There are paid versions, which I have because I hold long, extended workshops and quilt retreats, right? But there's a free version. And you can download the free version, and that's going to make it much easier for you to join in. So I personally would download the free version if you're just joining in. All right, is this cooled off? The only thing I want to do, I don't think I'm going to do a table today. Many of my blocks, I decided to have my pieces resting or sitting on a little table at the bottom. Today, my iron is just going to be floating within the block. But I do want to make sure that I stay away and sort of center this. So let's just mark ourselves a little 1/4 inch guide to help me stay away from the edges, right? Sometimes it looks like I'm staying away from the edge until I join the sashing and I'm like, I wish I would have put the applique down a little bit lower or higher. So this just helps give me a guide. And all of this will fade away once we put some heat on it. That's not straight. That's okay. All right, so my iron is just going to be floating on today's block. But I do think if you set your iron on an ironing board, that would be super cute. Or even if you have an ironing board here along the bottom of your block and your iron is resting on the ironing board. Right? Get creative, have fun with it, and play around. Today, I'm just going to put my block just like that. Trinita said, can we buy a pre-cut charm pack? That's what I did, Trinita. That is what I did for this quilt. Absolutely. All of these, the backs and the fronts of my blocks were a charm pack. And that has saved me a lot of time. It has. And the charm pack that I bought had like 80 pieces in it. It was like a double charm pack. So I have so many of these charms left over. We only have 3 more blocks after this. I'm going to have so many of these charms to use in other projects. All right, we're going to let that cool off for a second, y'all. Now, I have not decided how I want to stitch these things down. I kind of had an idea, so I got out my free motion foot. But let's talk about it for a second. Because we have that little tiny sliver, like the hot part of the iron at the bottom. Look how thin that is. If I were going to use any stitch on that little sliver, I would probably use a blanket stitch, because a blanket stitch is going to help that fabric of that little tiny piece show through more. If we did a zigzag or a satin stitch on that, it would have to be so thin, or else you're going to lose a lot of that piece at the bottom, right? So I got out my free motion foot and I thought I would just use a black thread and do a straight stitch, but with a free motion foot. Y'all, there's so many different ways you could sew all these pieces down. So by all means, use the stitch that you want to use, right? But I am thinking I'm leaning towards a free motion stitch. Hello, everybody. All right, Sheila, you just downloaded it. Awesome. Okay, so I did not put my free motion foot on my sewing machine because I was still up in the air, but yeah, we're going to do that. Okay, let me switch it over to the sewing machine. And it should just take me a second to switch over this foot. All right. And I'm not even going to worry with, sorry, the arm of my camera moves. I'm not even going to worry about lowering the feed dogs. Let's see, let me tighten that up. There we go. And I wound a bobbin right before the live, and then I did not finish threading my machine. So let me get this thread and the needle. This morning I was getting ready and it was like 8:30 and I was like, wow, I have so much time before the live. And then I got sidetracked doing other stuff, and before I knew it, I had 15 minutes and I had not wound a bobbin or nothing. So sometimes days are like that. All right. So yeah, I think I'm just going to do a straight stitch with some black thread. So straight stitch. I'm lowering the stitch length all the way to a 0. And yeah, I'm just going to do a straight stitch around all of these pieces. So where do I want to start today, Lisa? I think I'm going to start right at the corner of this red piece. Okay, where's my little clips? There they are. I think I'm going to start right there. And in my mind, we'll travel down. The only part of this gray piece at the bottom that we need to sew down is the edge. And when we sew down the edge of the red piece, that'll lock in that gray piece, right? So let's start there. hand the needle down. I'm going to take a couple little tiny stitches. Just, it looks like I'm not even hardly moving, right? And that's just going to lock that thread so we can snip those. All right, I'm going right along the edge of the gray piece. Which is super duper thin. And you'll see I'm going really, really slow because, oh, my hands are shaky. And I kind of want to keep this stitch line as straight as possible. And now, okay, so there's my little stitch line. Even that's pretty thick on that little sliver. Now we're going to go up and travel up around this piece here, and then we'll catch the bottom edge of that red piece. Just want to make sure we're still going. Okay. All right, I'm going to travel down. We're going to go along the bottom edge of the red piece. When we come back up here, we're going to go along the bottom edge of this black piece and sew that down. That means we're going to be traveling in this existing stitch line coming back up. When we get down to this side, I'm going to go ahead and do a couple little stitches and lock that. And we're going to jump over and sew these little arms of the handle. All right, needle up. Foot up, I can pull that away and start right underneath that wood handle. Needle up. Foot up, and we can jump over here. All right, so while we're right there, I'm going to go ahead and just travel up and do the two little circles. Actually, second thought. I just went around the edge of the outside circle. I'm going to go ahead and stitch down the handle of the iron and then jump to the middle circle inside, okay? Whenever possible, I like to just keep a continuous stitch line without breaking thread. Sometimes it's necessary to break threads to jump, but if at all possible, I like to travel in existing stitches and just make that continuous. And actually, that little outside rim around the inside circle is so small that I don't think you're going to see it if I just travel to that inside circle and stitch that down. And I actually went around that twice just to sort of help thicken up that line. And that's it, y'all. Those are all of our pieces sewn down. Ooh, it doesn't like going through all those layers today with that thread. So here's where we are. We have some jump stitches to trim. But let me just let you see that real quick in this light. So there's the front. And here's the back of my block. That's going to be super cute. And now I can come over here and trim these little jump stitches. All right, cutting mat. There we go. Let's just trim off these little jump stitches. There's only a couple on the front, and then of course the ones on the back. So there we go, y'all. Here is the back of my block. I think that's super cute, right? She is a little wobbly in the lines, but that's okay. And there is the front. Super cute, and look how fast that went by, right? I think if I was doing a zigzag stitch, we might still be sewing down this part here. Okay, so let me move these threads out the way. What I wanted to do was to show you where we are with this project because we're working on the last row. This is the first block of the last row. And I took a little time yesterday and joined these 4 bottom rows with some sashing, and then joined that row to the row above it. And then I did add the sashing strip below this one so this 4th row can start fitting in, right? But I think this is adorable. She's going to fit right there. Just like that. Right? Super cute. Yeah, what's been really, really fun is seeing your blocks. Because everybody's doing the same pattern, but all of our blocks look totally unique, right? And I've loved seeing the fabric choices. I've loved seeing the different variations. Like the other day, Lisa showed me her pincushion block. She used little tiny buttons. I think she said they were Lori Holt buttons. They were the perfect button for the top of these pins. That was adorable. Let's see, I think the last picture that I saw was somebody, and there's a husband and wife team. He's making 2 blocks and she's making 2 blocks. And they shared their, let's see, they turned one into a teacup and one into a coffee mug. That was super cute. So y'all are doing all kinds of stuff. It's been a lot of fun to see your progress. I don't have time to comment on every single photo, so I don't usually comment on any because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But I see them all, and it's been so much fun to follow along in your progress. Joan, thank you. Aw, Betty said, this reminds me of my grandmother. Are you talking about the iron? I know, right? We go to so many different antique shops and flea market shops and stuff like that. And I see these older irons all the time. And if my thoughts weren't that one day I'm going to downsize so extremely that we could possibly live in our RV and travel, if we didn't have thoughts of doing that, I think I would be like on the verge of my house looking like a flea market because I would buy all this stuff. I all the time see these irons, but they're so heavy too. They're heavy, right? I'm like, I would get that. But then it would be too much, right? Because I would get all of them. They're so pretty though, aren't they? Pamela said, Lisa, what if you just used a satin stitch for the bottom? That would be smart, Pamela. Omit that small piece altogether and just use a thread and do a satin stitch. You could absolutely do that. I'm going to tell you, these 5-inch blocks, the pieces have been tiny, right? You can see some of the pieces have been so small that I'm just not even cutting them out of fabric, right? And I'm just embellishing in different ways. But it's been really good practice because it's good fussy cutting out these small pieces, right? And many of you, this is your first applique project ever. So these small pieces have really been pushing your skill sets, giving you great practice. If you can do these smaller blocks, the big stuff that you get to down the road is going to be a breeze, believe me. So I'm super proud of you if you're doing this project. I really am. And I hope that you are being lenient with yourself and loving where you're at in doing these blocks. Anitra, your mom used to straighten her hair with one of these irons. I've seen some bloopers where people use, not this iron, but something like a hot stick that was like a vintage iron and just melt their hair right off. That would be so sad. Marion said, a quilt made from this iron, pin cushion, and sewing machine in different fabrics for the 3 would make a quilt. It would. Here's the thing, y'all. Let's say that you really only admire the sewing themed blocks that we've done in this quilt. And I get it. We're all different, right? Maybe you don't want to do the coffee cup and the star and the heart. I get it. Or the cat or the dog. And you just wanted to do the sewing machine themed blocks. You could absolutely repeat these blocks in different fabrics, different background colors, or all the same. And make a quilt just from 1 block, 4 of the blocks, 8 of the blocks. So yeah, you could certainly do that. So yeah, that's where we are. 3 more blocks left to go. And that is it. I'm going to tell you, I've really, during this process, y'all, this is a 16-week series. 16 weeks, and I can't believe we're already on the 13th week. But even my skill sets have improved, right? I started doing some hand quilting. Now it's big stitch quilting, but I love it. I started doing some hand quilting during this series. So even if you are very experienced with applique, I hope you extend some other process or technique into some of these blocks, right? Maybe using decorative stitches is something new for you, and you can experiment with doing some of those, right? Yes. I was trying to see if we did any hand stitching. Oh, we've only done hand stitching on one block. And that's really because I want to spare you your time and me doing it. But we did do a chain stitch for the stem of this flower, the very first block. And then I decided that's probably not a good idea to do that during a live. Thank you, Anitra. Anitra, guess what I found today? I found some bias tape makers that are similar to the ones that were in the video you shared with me. And I ordered them. They were like $9. They're going to be here tomorrow. I just ordered them today. So yes, that is block 13. Do you want to see block number 14? Carol said, I joined Zoom and I'm going to try to join you later today. Yay! I hope to see you. So the thing about the Zoom today, y'all, okay, I'm just letting you know I am recording it because it will be replayed here on YouTube. So if you don't want your face to ever show up in that video, you can turn your cameras off, okay? But I will be recording that class so that those who don't do Facebook but still want to see the process can watch that class later. I know, so much better than $47. And it came with 10 different sizes and like 4 or 5 of the traditional bias tape makers. You know, the like triangle ones, kind of with the little handles. It came with like 4 or 5 of those and 10 different sizes of the little plastic ones. Ooh, Gloria said, I started on a 1.5 inch hexagon English paper piecing. I did too, like a year and a half ago. I hope you don't lose interest with it like I did. I am really kind of sad about it, but all my pieces are in like a shoebox tote. And the problem is I stash stuff away and then I forget about it. Joyce said, where do I send my picture? If you want to send me a picture, Joyce, you can send me a picture on Facebook. You can post pictures on Creative Crew. And if you don't do Facebook, but you want me to see whatever you're doing, you can send me a picture on Etsy. I will share my sources, Anitra. I absolutely will. Because in the next Quilt As You Go project, we're going to do a Quilt As You Go with different size blocks. And I'm going to use that process to join those blocks. When is the Zoom? 3 o'clock today, Eastern Standard Time. Did you give us the link for the bias strip maker? I have not yet. What I want to do is I want to get it and try it out before I recommend it. And I usually like to do that before I just say, here's what I bought. Because what if it's not any good? What if it doesn't work very good? Right? I like to try something out first. So today is kind of an exciting day, though, because actually this stuff was supposed to be here yesterday, but it got delayed. I have, let me switch my camera over because we're done with the block. Now we're just chit-chatting. I have a couple of things showing up today. Let's see. Where do I start? India ink. I have some India ink. This is my mom's. She doesn't know I've raided. My mom and my dad are camping. Hi, Mom, if you're watching. My mom has one of those craft cabinets that you can open the doors and then those open up and then it's like a big wall of crafting, right? With shelves and drawers and all kinds of stuff, a Velcro wall to stick stuff on, and a table that folds out so you can sew and all this other stuff, and then it all folds back into a cabinet. She has one of those for her stuff downstairs in our sunroom. My mom, you would be amazed how much stuff you can fit in those cabinets, right? You want to name the craft, she's bought supplies for it. So she is my little Michaels without going to Michaels. She is my little Amazon without ordering on Amazon. Thank you, Mommy. So the other day I was using fabric markers and I was using this marker and my scan and cut to draw on fabric because I cannot wait to show you next week's block. I've already made it. Do you see it up on the wall? I used a marker in my scan and cut and a fill pattern. It was awesome. And then my marker started drying out. I was like, well, dang, I'm going to go through markers really fast, right? I love this marker. It is a Zig Writer. These markers are like $6, $7, $8 a piece. And I like the black because black goes with everything. But I don't want to spend $6 and $7 and $8 on one marker because I'm going to go through them really fast, right? So then I was like, how can I refill this? Can you refill it? So I spent half a day using different things to refill markers. I have several of these, different colors. I put Rit dye in one. I'm not telling you to do these things. I'm just telling you my process. Anyway, I was like, I wonder if my mom has any ink downstairs. So I went down and opened up her cabinet, and she did. She had some Speedball Super Black India ink, which supposedly is permanent on fabric. So I did. I refilled this marker, and it works wonderfully. So I have some of my own, and I can return this back to my mom. I have some of that coming. I have some replacement blades for my scan and cut, but they're generic blades. So I'm going to check those out because my scan and cut is extinct. They don't make it anymore. So the supplies for it are getting harder and harder to find. I found some blades that I'm hoping work with my scan and cut CM350. If they work, I'll be glad to share this with you because it will not only, it'll save you some money, right? I also found some mats through watching videos on YouTube. And if this process works, I will gladly share her video because, like, why recreate the wheel, right? She's done a wonderful video on it. And if it works for me, I'm going to share her video so you can go watch her explain it to you, right? She did a great video on it. But I want to try it out before I say, hey, go buy this or try this out. I want to try it first. But that would save me money on mats because those mats for my CM350 are getting harder to find. And not only that, they are dang pricey. They are expensive. So this would save so much money and I'd have mats forever. Here's my thought process on it, y'all. One day I do plan on getting the newest, latest, and greatest scan and cut. I'm a scan and cut person. I know many of you have Cricuts and you love them. You have Silhouettes and you love them. And I'm all for use what you love, right? I personally am a scan and cut person and they don't pay me to say that. One day I do want to get the latest and greatest machine because I checked one out at the Mid-Atlantic Quilt Festival and it was awesome. And it was super quiet. I couldn't even hear it running. But I just can't see spending the money when my CM350 works just like it was brand new, right? I can't rationalize that yet. And not only that, with that said, I could buy the brand new, because when we got the CM350, that was the newest and the latest and the greatest. And now it's extinct and discontinued. I could go buy the newest Scan and Cut they have today, and in 6 months they'll be talking about coming out with a new one. And that's just not Scan and Cut, that's everything, right? Sewing machines, embroidery machines, heat presses, long arms, all the things. There's always, something new, and the things we have are being discontinued. I'm all about extending the life of that. But one day you're going to see me show up and I'm going to have a brand new Scan and Cut that will one day be discontinued. Yeah, next week's block. Here it is. Let me turn my camera back over. The thread spool. Oh, my thread spool is so pretty. I can't wait for you to see my 12-inch block. I, of course, have not made my 5-inch block. I'll be doing that with you live next Friday. The thread spool. You'll be able to get this pattern Thursday, so keep your eye out for that. Wanda, okay, I'm sorry. I was wondering where you find all the sweet wordings. I just write them. I mean, I do find lots of inspiration on the Googles, right? But sometimes I just look at the block and I think, well, what should this say, right? The wordings for the thread spool block, I saw a shirt that said something similar, but I didn't want to copy it. So I did change the wordings out just a little bit. But it's inspired by stuff I've seen out on the internet, out in real life, stuff I've seen in the stores. But I always like to tweak stuff and change it just a little bit. I don't know, after hundreds of years of quilting and stuff, it's really hard to just be completely original and invent something that has not been done before. But I always like to find inspiration out there and just sort of put my own little twist on it, right? Krista, you got a Cricut. You're opening it today. Oh, are you going to be able to join in the Zoom? That's exciting, Krista. That is so exciting. I've probably missed a lot of comments and stuff. Sin has the 650W. Oh, yours takes the same as my CM350. Yay! So yeah, so what else do I have? Oh, I have some Crayola markers coming. Since we're just chit-chatting, I have Crayola. Our block went super fast today. That's the wrong camera, Lisa. Okay, so I have a universal pen tool holder for my Scan and Cut, right? And I have been having a ton of fun drawing on fabric. I'm not going to show you next week's block yet, but if you're on Facebook, you might have seen drawing on fabric. And so my universal pen tool holder, you're limited to a pen size up until, and I forget how many millimeters, it's like 9 millimeters or something like that. So you sort of have to be selective with the pens or the markers you use, right? I have a whole bunch of these pens, right? I have a whole bunch. These are alcohol ink pens, but they're too big to fit in my pen holder. I have a whole bunch, and I mean a whole bunch. I think I bought like a 10-pack of these Marvy fabric markers when we were doing like the painted stained glass, because I was going to use them to color in my sashing. So I have like 10 of these black fabric markers. It's too thick to fit in my universal pen tool holder. So finding pens and markers that exactly fit is kind of tricky. And you could spend a lot of money going through trying to find the right size pins, right? Well, I do have these, and these fit perfectly. But I ordered some Crayola markers. They're washable markers. So you'd have to use them in projects that are not going to be washed, like those, right? And they're on the thin side. I'm going to try those out in my pen tool holder. And then I ordered some Arteza fabric markers that are on the thinner side. I'm going to try those out. So I'm kind of excited just to share all of these discoveries with you and go through the experimenting phase for you so that if you're in the market for looking for this stuff, we already know if it works or if it doesn't, right? Kathy said, which scan and cut would you recommend? I have a ton of Cricut accessories as I bought one and it never worked, so I want to get a scan and cut. That is so funny. Tracy, yeah, a universal pen tool holder. So you can switch out all kinds of pins, right? That's so funny that you asked me that, Kathy, because someone, I just answered that question. Someone sent me a question on Etsy. And I walked her through my thoughts on which model to get, right? And first I say, you have to look at your budget, right? We all have different budgets when it comes to shopping for a cutting machine. Second, according to your budget, do you want to buy used or do you want to buy new, right? I think buying used machines a good amount of the time can be the perfect way of getting a cutting machine without spending a lot of money. A lot of people will upgrade machines even though their machine is working perfectly. When a newer model comes out, they do upgrade their machines and they sell the ones that they were currently using even though they work perfectly fine. And that's a great way to accommodate a cutting machine, right? The only thing with that said is, like my machine, you can buy people selling them because they're getting a newer one, but the supplies for the older machines are getting harder to find. That's why I'm experimenting with all this stuff, right? There's always workarounds. So it depends on, what do you want to spend your time doing? If you have a budget to afford a newer machine, that's fantastic. And you have some options, right? I would watch reviews on YouTube. There's a review for any of the machines you want to see. And people like me, real life people, not people just trying to sell the machine, real life people using the machines, I would watch videos on each of the models you're interested in. And then, there's different models that have trademarked designs in them with trademarked logos on the outside. And if you're interested in that trademarked stuff, that if you're a maker and you sell your goods, you can't sell those goods with the trademark stuff. It's personal use only stuff. That ups the price point of the machine, right? If you're not interested in all that trademark stuff, you can get the same working machine without that for lesser money. So watch reviews. That is my main advice for you. And if you're thinking of buying used, just keep in mind that it might be harder for you to find mats or blades and accessories because all of that stuff is being discontinued. All right, let me go back. Sin said, wrap rubber bands around the thinner pins and they fit into the pin holder really well. That is awesome. That's an awesome tip, Sin. And I also saw people wrapping tape around their thinner pins for their holder, right? And then, guess what else I have today coming? The little grips that you can fit over pencils and pens to help you write a little better? They kind of look like this, right? I have some spongy, not real spongy, but some grips that fit over pins. I have a 10-pack of those coming today because I thought, well, that would be super fast. And I wouldn't have to wrap tape and then unwrap tape. I could just slide the grips on and off. So I'm going to see if that works. Hazel, yeah, I talked to Vicki and I heard from Vicki yesterday and she is doing better. I certainly did. I have not seen her today though, which is kind of strange. All right, Wanda said, what is the block called on your wall that is red and white with flying geese? That is one of the blocks that block is called Circling Geese. And that is a block of the month project we are doing on Patreon. And I'm making all my blocks in red and white so that when I'm done, I have a red and white quilt. Tracy said, I wonder if they will hold the heat eraser markers. They do, Tracy. They do. Ask me how I know. Let's see. Melissa said there's also a learning curve. There's also the software learning curve for either machine. That's a really good point. Some are much easier than others. That is so true. Tracy said, I like to have scan and cut draw on the seam allowance lines. Helps me sew a little straighter. Well, you know, and I don't know that I have them over here. Scan and Cut has those little tiny water erasing markers, right, that fit in the holder that comes with the machine. Well, you could go through one of those little tiny markers really fast, right? The universal pen tool holder for the Scan and Cut allows you to use all kinds, right? You're just limited to the size. Like it can't be super thick. But I've used my friction fine liners and my universal pen tool holder, and it works fantastically. Joyce said, do I type in Creative Crew in YouTube or Facebook? If you're asking about joining the Zoom later today, you're going to want to be on the Facebook, not YouTube. Okay? And what you actually need to do is type in Lisa Capen Quilts, because that's where the Zoom link will be posted, not on Creative Crew. But if you're not in Creative Crew, I hope you join. We'd love to have you there. And there's links to my Facebook page and Creative Crew in the description box. So if you want to find me quick, just open the description box and click on the link and it brings you right to my page. Is the universal pen holder useful for all scan and cuts and pins? And where did you get yours? I ordered mine probably through Amazon. But y'all, lots of independent shops sell through Amazon. You know that, right? It was probably some kind of sewing shop selling through Amazon. But I bought mine on Amazon. And you can use, let me just show you. Oh no, I just dropped something. I don't know what that was. I have to find that. Let me just show you. Okay. So this is the universal pen tool holder, right? And it comes with this little stand and you fit your marker or your pen down inside until it touches the base of the stand, right? And then you tighten up the little wheelie and it grips whatever size pin that you put in here. And now it's ready to put into your machine and draw and write and color, right? So yeah, that's the universal pen tool holder. And let me show you the thicknesses that work because it is kind of limited. A diameter of 9.6 to 11.4. There's the two sides, you know, anywhere in this range of pins and markers it works with. But if you have pins that are too thin, there are workarounds around that too. So, yes. These are the little markers. I did have some. These are the little markers that came with the machine. And I'm going to tell you, if you used your machine often, you could go through that real quick, right? These little markers. I'm sure the little nub that holds the ink is only so big, right? But you could refill these. Maybe. I don't know. All right, everybody. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you and sharing some ideas with you. Yeah, I'm kind of excited to share all of these discoveries with you. I've kind of blown my budget on experimenting on things this week. But that's okay. It should be all in fun, and I like experimenting and stuff like that. Hazel, the quilt retreat is Sunday, so I hope you can come join us. Sheila said, have you ever used it to make stickers? I have, Sheila. I have. Do you want to see some of my stickers real quick before we end up today? That's not it. I don't know if they're over here or not. Hold on a second. They might not be. I have made stickers that if I make a shirt, like a sublimated shirt, I made stickers that have a shirt on them with washing instructions, and I put the sticker on the clear package. I've made Lisa Capen Quilts stickers that go on my labels. I've made stickers with instructions on them, so when I package sublimated photos, we just put the sticker of instructions right on the package. Yeah, I like making stickers. Hazel, the quilt retreat is 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Or later if we're having a really fun time. Okay, everybody, I am going to go grab some lunch. And then I have some stuff ready for today's workshop. Y'all, if you just came in, it's a free workshop. It's all about the workflow working with SVGs and cutting out fabric applique with a cutting machine. The link is going to be on Lisa Capen Quilts' Facebook page. All right? It will be recorded, so if you don't want your face in the video at any point, make sure your camera is off. All right, everybody, I love you so much. Thanks for hanging out with me today. I know we worked through the block really quickly. Free motion quilting is fast like that. But it was also fun just to hang out with you at the end and talk about some random other stuff, right? Have a fantastic week. If I don't see you before next Friday, the dates of the last 3 blocks are up on the screen. Also, the date of the mug rug of the week, which is a free project. So, yeah, 2 opportunities to hang out this coming next week. Bye, everybody.